Okay, I'm making another part now, and Paul can walk back and forth without feeling like a camera is filming him. The frog doesn't mind. No, I don't mind. I do the burping anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter if there's a camera on me or not. I burp out caviar and it feels good. And if that helps your brain, then that is wonderful. So how do we heal these kind of mental monstrosities? How do we heal those insane things? And I have to call the kid by the name. I have to say, I'm not in anyone's face. I'm not gonna say, oh, you bitch and whatever. Yes, of course they are. They are mega bitch. They wanna be mega bitch also. They think it's badass. That's the problem. When this kind of stuff becomes then an acceptable, even socially praised type of thing, okay, when it becomes institutionalized, when it even becomes religious, like in the Mormon religion, I heard there are atrocities being done, blood atonements and stuff like this, devil worshipping type of stuff, in very large cults and religions. Child sacrifices. People will think I'm nuts or something. Oh, you must be a total, or you're one of those total nut, crazy conspiracy theorists. Like, no, I am totally against conspiracy theories, completely against it. But there are people who have witnessed it, who have seen it, and who have been severely traumatized by this. Teal Swan, I believe her 100%. She has written books about this, about the Mormon, the Latter-day Saints, and the kind of stuff that they're doing. It's just, they're doing incredibly mentally insane things. Okay, it's just the ego doesn't stop. Then I saw more people speaking out about this on YouTube. I'm not just going by what someone says who heard something about. I only listen to the direct witnesses, and I can tell. I am very intuitive. I can tell when I see someone speak about this in person, stuff that they have witnessed, that they have experienced, trauma they have experienced as a child from their parents who are involved with those kind of cults. I know when people are for real, when this story is for real, and I know when it is made up. I can tell by the way people talk. I can tell by 100% by their facial expression, by the tone of their voice, particularly when they feel a little bit ashamed about it, when they would rather not talk about it, when they stutter, when they feel insecure about it, when they try to even make it sound a little bit better than it is. But it is absolutely, it's total, it's retardedness and insanity what some people's egos are doing, how that flares out in some people. That is what real insanity is. That's the real insanity that belongs into an insane asylum. That is that kind of stuff. When they do blood atonements, when they do all kinds of disgusting misunderstandings of Jesus Christ, and of when they, worshiping is, and that alone is already, that's a very dangerous act out, to worship someone. Very dangerous act out. Okay. That escalates into unimaginable horrors. Okay, so we got to stay away from this. But my question is, how can this escalate into something like this? Okay. And how can we prevent this? And how can we fix this? How can we heal this? When an animal is traumatized, the animal's brain doesn't go into ego convolutions as the human brain does. A dog might become very aggressive when he had been traumatized, and it would be better for the dog. I've seen incredibly painful videos already on Facebook and YouTube of severely traumatized dogs. They can never be petted. They are so traumatized they never trust another hand ever again. Okay, and that's infinitely sad. Okay, but this traumatized animal doesn't go into ego convolutions. The traumatized animal doesn't grow up torturing other animals. That is what the human brain does. And there are cases where the person hasn't even been physically hurt as a child. That's more like when the person hasn't been felt, hasn't been seen, hasn't been loved. Of course, it's horrible trauma. But to take this trauma into an act out that hurts other living beings, some people will even, like I said before in the other video, some people go into making so-called artwork or art performances that are hurting another living being, okay? And they sell that as art. And they think this is somehow cool. And the reason why this escalates in that direction is because people give into this. People give into it just like that fairy tale. The emperor has no clothes on. The emperor tells everyone his clothes are so finely woven that you can't see them. And then everyone jumps on board with it until the clown finally. It's always the clown. It's always the truther clown. It's interesting that this is also happening in fairy tales from the Middle Ages. The clown suddenly comes up and says, but wait a minute, the emperor has no clothes on at all. And then everyone suddenly has their eyes opened like, ooh, oh, okay, he's right. How come I haven't noticed that before? Because the ego wants to be liked to the point. The ego wants to be liked by the emperor. In our situation here, it is where the ego wants to be liked by society to the point where the ego just simply puts the brain into a state of complete denial and anosognosia. Anosognosia is when someone has a physical state of denial, like a very deep physical, biological state of denial, where they really do not think that, for example, when someone has a paralyzed arm or something. Dr. Vilayano Ramachandran from UC San Diego has been studying this in depth, and he's come out with some incredible observations where some people they go into a biological state of denial over having a paralyzed arm, for example, and they will say, no, I just don't want to use that right arm right now. I'll just prefer to use the left arm just because I don't want to use the right arm. And this denial can go from A to Z. Denial can go from, I know that I am lying, I know that I'm making this up to other people, to I know that the other person is probably right, but I'm not going to let them get away with the truth. I want to be in denial, and I'm denying it to myself. And it goes further into believing their own lies, believing their own denial, and it goes all the way into a biological state of complete denial, which is called anosognosia, where they really, it's like the wounded deer syndrome. The deer keeps grazing when the deer has an injured leg. The deer pretends to be well when he sees a bear or a mountain lion. He pretends to be well because apparently this anosognosia in evolution has saved some lives, and those lives that were able to do anosognosia survived. So the same thing I see in humans as well. And in our civilization today, okay, we're not living as hunters and gatherers anymore. The situation has drastically shifted, but it has so drastically shifted before the brain can even keep its own evolution up with it. So just the outside circumstances have shifted so dramatically from hunter-gatherer living thousands of years ago until people started to dwell on one particular place and started to do farming. So then civilization began. Okay. Terence McKenna talks about this as well, and he sees this as a problematic situation, civilization development in this sense. And Derek Jensen talks about it in his books, that about the dangers of civilization in this way. And I talk about it from the particularly with the focus point of psychological development, psychological phenomena. So when the ego starts to just shoot off, without reason, when there's no more reason involved, when the ego becomes completely criminally insane. So that's my worry for the world. And what I really want to convey is, and I don't know if people are ready to hear this, for anyone who's jealous, for example, there's no need to be jealous. It's easier said than done. But you are already precious the way you are. There's no need to do anything artificial on top. There's no need to outdo someone or outsmart someone, or there's no need to covet something. You're already perfect the way you are. Okay? So be the being that you are and love yourselves, okay? You guys take care.